All right, I'm putting the pitchforks down for now. This is the best possible news after kind of an up and down weekend. Dante Fabbro is going to be a Blue Jacket next year and onwards. Let's discuss on this bonus Locked on Blue Jackets.
You're Locked on Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked on Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team, and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. What about the good today? I'm excited. Dante Fabbro has re-signed. He's got a new contract. They did it. They got it in under the wire. I really thought this was going to drag out into like July 1st or beyond, giving other teams a chance to try and steal him, essentially. But he's here. He's a Blue Jacket. This, to me, is the best possible result of the available defense, right? Like, I know that Don Waddell has talked that he wants to retool the defense, right? I know that they went hard after Noah Dobson and that fell through. For me, of the available UFA defensemen, Dante Fabbro was far and away the best for a couple of reasons, which we'll talk about in a minute. But like one of them, to briefly go through it, Zach Werenski, defense partner, hasn't had a consistent defense partner since Seth Jones left, and Dante Fabbro was perfect there. And B, he's also just, I think, the best defenseman that was available, right? So he has re-signed for a 4-year, I believe it's $4.125 million contract, which I was kind of penciling him in for somewhere between $4 million and $5 million for 4 years or 5 years, right? And it's perfect. Like 4 years is great. That contract is going to look so good in a couple of years if the cap keeps going up, which it sounds like it's just going to keep skyrocketing at least for the next couple of years. And the Blue Jackets don't lose him for nothing as well, because that's the other thing that sucks about UFAs, right? Is you make the choice to re-sign them or not re-sign them. If you can't re-sign them, then they just get to leave, right? And it would be such a shame if Dante Fabbro had just walked away and not left the Blue Jackets with anything. He'd be within his rights to, like that's how being a UFA works, is you get to choose where you play, and I support the players getting to choose where they play, right? As frustrated as I am that so few of them seem to choose Columbus, I'm still very much in favor of, if a player's not happy somewhere, if he doesn't want to play somewhere, fine. He's allowed to feel that way, right? He's allowed to ask out. He's allowed to want a trade. He's allowed to leave in free agency, etc., etc. But Dante Fabbro wanted to stick around. I wasn't sure that he would. Like, it seemed to me a little bit that he and Provorov were kind of Don Waddell's last resort, right? And it felt very much like, well, if we couldn't swing Dobson, then we'll pivot to Anderson. We can't get Anderson, then then we'll pivot to free agency, Ekblad, Gavrikov, etc. And if they don't work, then I guess we'll go back to Fabbro and Provorov as like a last resort, right? For me, Fabbro should have been the number one focus on re-signing. And they did it. I wasn't sure. I think literally less than an hour previous to this contract breaking, I was, tweeting from the podcast Twitter about like, well, here's the best case scenario, and it's re-sign Fabbro, and it's probably get a Gavrikov, and then worst case scenario is if you don't get either of those guys, you miss out on Ekblad, and you end up going into next year with, overpaying assets for Rasmus Anderson and re-signing Ivan Provorov. But Dante Fabbro is signed. They must have heard me complaining. It's funny. I think, again, maybe an hour before this dropped, there was a Portsline article on The Athletic that talks a little bit about it. But, they were like, well, talks have basically slowed down over the past couple of days, presumably because people were focusing on the draft and trades, etc. And they were like, nothing seems particularly close on either of them, right? And I guess things move fast, right? I think they realized, oh, actually, no, we do want to keep Fabbro, so we're going to re-sign him. Like I said, this is a great move. This might be my favorite move that Waddell has done all summer. I know that he's not made a lot of moves, but like this to me felt like a slam dunk, right? This, after looking at what you got from him this season. So Dante Fabbro was a waivers pickup in November, I think. They grabbed him. kind of just as a, hey, let's see what happens, right? And I remember doing the video where, I remember doing the post waiver pickup video where I was like, worst case scenario, either you let him go at the end of the season as a free agent, you can flip him at the deadline, or best case scenario, there's your Werenski partner, right? And he and Werenski clicked. I think that, and this is, I want to give enough credit to Werenski for the season he had, because I think he had an incredible season, and that's not just because he had a good defense partner, but when you look at, this is the best that Werenski has played since having Seth Jones, right? And I think having someone like Fabbro, who is a good two-way defenseman that can, put points up and also can, sit back and let Werenski do his rover thing, right? Like, he was just kind of a revelation. I think it shocked basically everyone. Blue Jackets fans, like media from other teams, like the Predators, I think, are furious that Dante Fabbro blossomed like this in Nashville, because it really seems like they had to choose between Dante Fabbro and Luke Schenn, and they chose Luke Schenn, and I don't believe Luke Schenn finished the season with the Preds. I think he went somewhere in free agent at the deadline. Like, was it Winnipeg, maybe? So they decided to give up on Fabbro for Luke Schenn, who admittedly, great locker room guy by all accounts. I understand that they wanted to keep him around, but I'm also not mad that there was the expense of that the Blue Jackets got to swipe a guy like Fabbro, who, like I said, was just a real revelation. Like, going from being a waiver pickup at the beginning of the season to playing on the first pairing with the second place Norris winner, to turning that into a 4-year, what is it, 4-year, $17 million contract. Like, that's pretty good. That is pretty good. Fabbro this season had 26 points in 62 games, which I'm pretty pleased with. Like, again, he can put up points, but I don't think he necessarily needs to. I think I'm much more happy having him be the second fiddle, I guess, to Zach Werenski, which was the biggest thing about this for me, right? And Zach Werenski needed a defense partner. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. I've read them before on another show. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick while I talk through this on Money Puck. But Zach Werenski last season, I don't think had any consistent defense partner. And when I say last season, I mean the 23-24 season, which at some point I'm going to have to emotionally switch that last season was actually 24-25. But he didn't have a consistent defense partner. He played with basically whoever was there, right? This season, he played 1,009 minutes with Dante Fabbro. Last season, the most he played with any defense partner was Damon Severson, and he played 456 minutes with him. He played 333 with Adam Boquist. He played 233 with Eric Gabranson. Like, he played 87 minutes with Ivan Provorov. He played 81 with Nick Blankenberg. Like, he played with basically every defenseman on the roster. He played 67 minutes with Jake Bean, played with Juracek, played with Peak, which I think, what's that, 7 or 8 different partners, which is insane. Fabbro comes in, those two click together, and I really don't think it can be overstated, like, how important it is for your Norris caliber defenseman to have a good partner, right? Look at, for example, Quinn Hughes, who really, really clicked a couple of seasons ago with Philip Hronek. Now, they had some problems this season. Obviously, Quinn Hughes was injured on and off, and the Canucks were kind of really inconsistent. But, like, it's the same thing, right? Like, they hadn't had a partner for Quinn Hughes, and then suddenly they got Hronek, and it clicked, right? Similar-ish thing in Colorado, I would say. Not that they were kind of looking and then didn't have him, but, like, in the 23-24 season, Cale Makar played 1,035 minutes with Devon Taves, I think it is. This season, he played 1,106 minutes with Taves. Like, those two are so good together. They have been stapled together, and I really do think that Fabbro can be the Taves to Werenski's Makar, which is why for me it was so important to bring him back. Like, you can probably find another partner for Werenski, but the way I have kind of looked at it and the way that I suspect that at least part of the negotiations would have gone is you keep your stars happy, right? And I think letting Fabbro go would have probably annoyed Werenski, would have probably disappointed him. It seems like they had a great time playing together. And again, this was his best partner since Seth Jones. So it's been a minute because Seth Jones left in 2021, I believe, 2020 or 2021. Since then, it's just kind of been desperately trying to find literally anyone that can keep up with Werenski. Fabbro keeps up with Werenski. Great news, right? It's gonna be like that to me was the most important thing for Fabbro is it keeps Werenski happy, and we love to keep Werenski happy, right? The other thing is that he's just a good defenseman, right? Like, I know that everyone was disappointed that they didn't get Noah Dobson. I'm also disappointed that they didn't get Noah Dobson. Like, it sucks. Like, Werenski, Fabbro, Matejchuk, Dobson would have been arguably a top 3 defense, like top 4 defense in the NHL, right? If everyone plays to their potential. That being said, Noah Dobson was not a UFA, so I'm not counting him in this. Dante Fabbro was the best available defenseman. Like, I'm also not counting Rasmus Anderson in this, although I do think that Fabbro is better than Anderson as well. But like, you look at like the handful of guys that have kind of been talked about: Fabbro, Ekblad, Provorov, Gavrikov. Like, of those big 4 guys, Fabbro is the best, far and away, right? And so it was so important to keep him. And if you want, like, this team, especially losing out on Dobson, if you also lose out on Fabbro, like, this team will not be better at defense than they were last year. You know, you can try and patch holes, but like replacing Fabbro with Ekblad would be fine. But I do think that you kind of at best net 0 there, right? You're not making it worse. You're not improving, provided that Ekblad has chemistry with Werenski, which is the kicker, right? Everything else makes, like, if you get rid of Fabbro and keep Provorov, that's worse. If you lose Fabbro and I guess like bringing Gavrikov, I'd be fine with. Although I think they filled very different roles. Like, for me, and I literally talked about this on Twitter like an hour ago. Like, for me, the best case scenario here was re-sign Fabbro, get Gavrikov in free agency. So they've done one of those things. Arguably the most important thing for me. But they still need a defenseman that plays defense, right? Not that Fabbro doesn't, but I think they need a guy that really does just focus on that shutdown defense. And so Gavrikov is the best option for me. I do wonder if this kind of shuts down avenues for Anderson. Based on, I don't know. Maybe they go into next season with Fabbro and Anderson. I don't know. But it's going to be really interesting to see what happens next. But I'm so happy that they brought Dante Fabbro back, because for me, that was kind of a non-negotiable to making this team better, is not getting rid of the best right defenseman that you have, and also the only partner that has been consistently good with Zach Werenski for the past 4 seasons, right? So we'll probably talk about this in some more detail tomorrow. I was going to do a full episode tomorrow on what free agents, what's the best case scenario for free agency? What's the worst case scenario? Where are the Blue Jackets going to fall? But I guess what we'll do is we'll talk about what this means in a little bit more detail for as they approach free agency. And we'll go from there. So this is just a quick little bonus. I'm going to finish this up here. Thank you for listening. Make it your first listen. Probably not your first listen. It's 2 p.m. Eastern there. But thank you for listening. And you can find Locked on Blue Jackets wherever you get podcasts. You can find us on YouTube. I recently hit a big number over there, which is very fun for me. So thank you to everyone who watches on YouTube, has hit subscribe, has helped me out there, because it's been a fun ride. So thank you. I appreciate all of y'all. You can find us on Twitter at LO_Blue Jackets. You can find me on Blue Sky at JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO-Blue Jackets over on Blue Sky as well. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, you want to also talk about how much you love Dante Fabbro, you can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Like I said, tomorrow we'll have a new episode. summarizing the second day of the draft a little bit and talking about this Fabbro extension a little bit more, and also taking a look at what happens when the free agency doors finally open on July 1st. So that's all coming up tomorrow. Thank you once again for listening, and until then, make sure you stay locked on.